We welcome you. We welcome you. We are calling out all people, all Democrats, to action this afternoon. We're calling you to go out and canvass and to get people out to vote. You know, this is the most serious election probably in the lives of most of you who were born after the Civil Rights era. Some of us were born a little bit ahead of time. But just let me tell you what's going on. Today, the North Carolina Supreme Court, by a vote of 4-3, upheld the Leandro Act that guarantees what our Constitution says, that all children are entitled to a sound basic education, all children of this state. And so that means that our state must fully fund the Leandro Comprehensive Remedial Plan, recruit and prepare excellent teachers, a diverse group of teachers for the workforce, well-prepared principals, provide equitable funding for our schools, and support low-performing schools, even at a higher level, and provide early childhood opportunities, amongst others. The state withheld $870 million that should have gone to our schools. But this means that they must do it. We must do it in this state. And I want to tell you why that's important, because we have a majority on the Supreme Court, 4-3 vote. If we lose a majority, then they will appeal that, it will go back, and we'll be in the same shape before. And so tonight we're going to let you see some of those people who are running as well too. We got one here on the front, Lucy Inman. But we have to make sure that we have people in offices who are going to support the right to life, the right to education, housing, food, everything for all of the people of this state, not for a segment, living wages, but for everybody. So we thank you for coming out this evening. It may look like it's not a lot, but the rest of you will come in, because those who care about the quality of life in North Carolina will be here, they will get out, they will canvass neighborhoods, and they'll get people to vote. Now let me tell you one other thing and we'll get started. Let me tell you what stats look like and why we are so, oh, we got a bug up here with me too. Why we're so concerned this afternoon. According to the latest statistics, we've had about 86,426 people to vote in Guilford County. 39,700 Democrats, 24,000 Republicans, and 21,000 unaffiliated. But the travesty is that people in the areas where we have large registered numbers of voters have not turned out. Let me give you some examples. Some of those precincts you know that we've counted on in the African American community, and I just want to give you an example or two, and these are the ones we're going to ask you to canvass. We know that Blueford community is one that's always been a very strong voting precinct. And Blueford is, let's see, G7 is something. I think it's 75. Yeah, G74. There are more than, let me tell you how many have voted in G74. I just want to give you an example. Only 479 people have voted in that precinct. However, there are more than 4,000 people, I believe, in that area, and I can't find the other number. But that's just an example of that. In some of these heavy precincts where there are registered voters, the turnout is 10, not more than 20%. That's not good. That's not good. So the reason we have you tonight is so we can get you to get out, knock on doors, call people, whatever, and tell them that this is about their quality of life. This is about the quality of life of North Carolina. And some of you have been doing it, so we want to thank you. I'm going to stop right now and ask that Reverend Benander Hughes, who is the new chair, president of the Pulpit Forum, will come and give us an opening prayer. And then I'm going to ask Kathy Kirkpatrick, chair of the Democratic Party of Guilford County, to come up and give us some remarks. And I'm going to change your right here.
Let us pray. Holy God, we have gathered here on this evening. And first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to gather here so that we may discuss all of the details that are at hand. But not only discuss, oh God, what we ask that in our discussions that you will give us the wisdom, the knowledge, the guidance to move forward. And God, we are dependent on you to guide us through all of this. And even though we are in serious times, we know that you are in control, and so we are depending upon you to give us the strength that we may go out and do what you've called us to do, and that is to make this world better than which we found it. And so we are trusting you to manifest your presence, to manifest your power, to manifest your provision, oh God, that we may go forward to make this world better. So, Father, in all of our getting, we ask that you will help us to get the understanding that we need, the understanding to enhance the quality of life for all people. And so we thank you for how you are working in our lives. And even though we may not be able to see all of what you're doing behind the scene, but we are trusting you, God, because we know there is no failure in your power. We're trusting you in all of what we do. For as it has been declared in the words of Proverbs, to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not to our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge you, and you shall direct our path. And so, God, we are trusting you to direct our path, and we are submissive to your will, way, and word. It is in all holiness that I pray. Amen.
Gentlemen, this event is being sponsored by the Democratic Party of Guilford County, and I want to thank Kathy Kirkpatrick for her close collaboration and working with us to make sure we can get the folks out to vote. Absolutely. Okay? Told me to put these on.
Changing of the guard.
Yeah.
The mic guard, that is.
Yeah, this is what they said we must do, which is
Absolutely.
good, very good.
Thank you. I will take this with me when I go as a souvenir. Guys, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I am Kathy Kirkpatrick, chair of the Guilford County Democratic Party. I'm not going to take out a lot of time. You guys are the choir. You know why we're here. And I'm just saying, please turn out and help canvass what we have going. Tomorrow, we've got starting canvasses at 9 o'clock. Tonight, you'll be able to pick some precincts that you want to go to. I've got materials out there ready to go. So as soon as you get them, you can either start tonight, tomorrow morning, start from where you are. If you want to wait until tomorrow and come down to the office, we'll be canvassing at 9, 12, and 3, Sunday at 12 and 3, Monday all ding-dong day. So come out, appreciate you guys being here, and thank you so much for supporting. Sorry, I just saw another one of our. I am finished.
Already.
Told you it's going to be short. I'm short, it's short. Hang on, I've got another candidate I just saw.
Okay, so now we want to introduce to you the candidates that are here, and then you're going to hear our messenger for the afternoon. Some have engagements, but we want you to know who it is who the people are who are supporting your rights. We want you to know that. And I introduce Lucy Inman, Judge Lucy Inman, who is running for the North Carolina Supreme Court. And know that our courts are important. When we mess up in the legislature, not but one place to go, and that's to the courts. And if the courts don't care about all people, then we're doomed. So we must have good judges in our courts. We also have our U.S. Congresswoman, Representative Kathy Manning. And all of you know Kathy. And we've got to keep that seat strong. Got to keep it strong. We have our state representative, Ashton Clemens. Ashton Clemens. Okay, and Ashton's worked in schools, and she's been there for two terms now, Ashton. Okay, we got to get her back in there. Then we have a couple of, I forgot about me, I'll introduce me last. Have a couple of school board candidates. Schools are important. Derek Mobley that's county commissioner. Derek Mobley, where are you, Derek? Running for Guilford County Commissioner. That's where your local money, your county money comes from, so that's important. And a where are you? School Board, District 2. Alan Sherrouse, who is running for school board at large, he has a wedding. He could not be here. I believe Sherry Young was on her way. And I am your state senator, Gladys Robinson. So now I want to ask Dr. Curtis Brown if he'd come up and introduce our keynoter for the evening. We're not going to be here all day. We want you to get the important stuff, and then you'll be able to go out to work. Okay.
I so much like what my sister said. She said she's short. I'm going to be short too. Because it's really not a lot that I need say about a voice that has resonated in the hearts of people across this nation. He's a dear friend. He is a warrior for justice and righteousness. And with that being said, I know he would prefer that I not go into a lot of details about who he is. He's one of the best men that I know this side of glory. Would you receive Dr. William J. Barber II? God bless.
Hello, Guilford County. Hello, North Carolina. Now, I got a question. I listen for a sound when I come in the room, and I don't hear the sound of battle. Y'all mighty laid back. Are we in a fight for the soul of this nation? Yes. Are we in a fight for the soul of this state? Yes. Really? Are we in the fight for the future of this country? Yes. Well, would all of you mind just standing and putting your hands together that you at least know that, you're clear on that? We're filming. Say, we're in a fight and we must win. I want to thank my dear warrior sister Gladys Robinson and Kathy Kilpatrick, the chair, for inviting us to come tonight at this gathering. And we're on live stream. We're going to be live streaming and pushing it out, and I see so many of you. And there's some people here. When I finish, I want you to hear them because they have a word, because they are persons who have particular reasons why voting is no joke for them, and they're depending on certain kind of public policy. And they represent so much of the people that we have got to reach. And I'm telling you, it's not going to happen by just doing it on TV. I want to first, though, today, Gladys, say that I am here today representing William J. Barber II, born 8/30/63, 2 days after the March on Washington in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm not here representing any organization, church I pastor, or other. I was raised as a son of North Carolina. When my parents came back to North Carolina, my father did, to help integrate public schools in Washington County. I'm going to come tonight as a descendant of free black mulattoes in eastern North Carolina, white brothers and sisters from the people that my people were kin to, and Tuscaroran native indigenous people. And we're here in the land of the longleaf pine, where we say our motto is to be rather than to seem. So tonight, I want to be clear that as an individual citizen, I can't afford not to tell the truth and be partisan in this moment. I've tried my life to be partisan, nonpartisan. But what we see happening now, you can't straddle the fence as an individual. There has to be some clarity. And we have to call names, just like Frederick Douglass had to call the name of Lincoln. And just like Martin Luther King, though it had been his position not to endorse any candidate, when he saw the difference between Hubert Humphrey and Nixon, a year before he died, there's a tape of him breaking that tradition. I come here today because this moment demands clarity about who we are and who we want to be. And I'm here to speak about this election as a free man that is already underway, and the vote we must make and take together, Dr. Brown. And I thank you so much for your constant friendship and leadership. I want to talk about why we can't let the pundits determine what we do. I am sorely afraid that we sometimes have lost our fight because we look at too much TV. And we listen to paid pundits whose job it is to scare everybody so they can keep the corporate dollars coming in and making folk buy more ads and buy more TV stuff. Voting is not simply a democratic right. It is a God-given virtue. Voting is a gift of our humanity. In both the Hebrew scriptures and Christian scriptures, and even my Muslim brothers and sisters recognize, from the beginning, God gave humanity the right to choose. It's what separates us from being animals, making a choice. In fact, in Hebrew, the word for vote and voice, Gladys, is the same word, koil, K-O-L. I see Lucy recognizing that, the word koios. If you're down south, it's Q-O-L, but if you're a northern Jew, it's koil, K-O-L. Faith is a vote decision. It's a decision to follow God, and everybody has to make a decision. Everybody has a moment in your history when you have to say where you stand and mean what you say when you say it. The truth of the matter is the vote is one of the most powerful nonviolent tools of change. And our vote this year, the truth of the matter is, must also be repentance for not having voted our strength. Because when we don't vote, we give up our voice. You know, in 2016, Trump secured the presidency by 80,000 votes in 3 states. And when you look at those states, millions of people who were against him, his policies, didn't vote. Didn't vote. In North Carolina, there are 3.2 million poor and low wealth voters. And yet in 2016, 1 million of those voters did not vote. And before you blame them, let me tell you what the data says why they did not vote. Nobody ever talks to us. We talk about the middle class. We talk about the wealthy. People keep trying to find a one-issue guarantee that you're going to get to vote. And people are left out. This year, our massive turnout must be a repentance and re-engagement. It must be a reclaiming of our sacred possession, but we've got to have some fire in our belly. And I've learned a long time ago that only we can really have fire in our belly. Nobody else can put it there. Here we are in this moment, and there are millions of poor and low wealth voters and others. In fact, in this state, 48% of this state is poor and or low wealth. 39% are white. That's 2.4 million people. 62% of people of color are poor and low wealth. 62% of people of color. And 49% of all the women, 2.5 million. If that's the case, why do we keep letting the pundits and the consultants tell us that we only ought to be talking about this issue or that issue? We've got 96 hours. Too much is at stake for us to pretend that this is a normal election. There's nothing normal about this election. Nothing normal about this election. We really have got to decide in this morning, that recognize this evening, this day, that we've got a choice between two parties. Not just two parties that have two different ideas about how we move forward. Not a choice between two parties. One is totally flawed and the other one is totally perfect. We have a choice between a party and people running in that party, the Democratic Party, who at least enough of them are trying to move forward, as opposed to another party where almost 99% of them are locked in a commitment to go backwards. In this election, Republicans, who are for the most part Trumpians, and then I thought about that, and I said, no, that's actually not right. They are extremists. You see, the crowd we're dealing with today, my grandfather was a Republican. He was a Republican from West Virginia. He was a Republican that stood alongside white West Virginians in 1920s and fought against the bosses to fight for labor rights. And the bosses dropped Molotov cocktails on top of them from biplanes. But he was a Teddy Roosevelt Republican. He was a Lincoln Republican. What we're dealing with today is not that. And I want to issue, Dr. Brown, just a little bit of a corrective that I've even had to correct myself on. These folk are not Trumpians. They made Trump. Trump didn't create them. They created Trump. That's why even though Trump is out of office, they are still pushing the same distorted agenda. They are the people that decided a long time ago that they could no longer win the popular vote in a fair election, but they still want power. They still want power. They are the ones that decided a long time ago that their goal in life with their power is to block wages, suppress the vote, deny health care, deny rights to immigrants. And North Carolina, can we be real for a minute? We saw this before Trump ever got on the stage. We could have told America this was coming, because we saw it as soon as the extremist Tea Party-led Republicans, not Republicans, the Tea Party extremist Republicans, took over the General Assembly in 2010. The first thing they tried to do was pass voter suppression. If it hadn't been for a Democratic female governor, the only governor in the South that vetoed that bill. And then they were able to get a supermajority by super cheating. You know, most of the time, what this crowd of Republicans is doing is projecting. If they call you a lie, what they're really doing is projecting onto you what they're doing. And Democrats, we got to get some fire in our belly. We saw all that Trump did before Trump. Art Pope was Trump before Trump. McCory was Trump before Trump. Barber was Trump before Trump. Moore was Trump. I can't get an amen and run. Democrats, you. And in North Carolina, we got to be real careful how we shape this narrative. Because the folk here, Trump did not make them. They made Trump. 2012, they got a majority through cheating and gerrymandering. It took us 7 years to win it, beat them in the court and undo it. What the courts ended up calling unconstitutionally constituted legislature. Am I right, Judge? We had to spend 5 or 6 years fighting them on voter suppression. We won, but they were doing, Trump learned from them. Because the first 2 or 3 months after 2012, the extremists who call themselves Republicans in this state, what did they do? They attacked the LGBT community, they attacked women, they denied health care in 17 minutes. I remember I was there in the legislature when they would not even let doctors testify. Then they went after voting rights. And the first bill, Gladys, Senator, to deny voting rights, the number of that bill was Senate Bill 666. Even the computer knew it was wrong. And they held that bill until after the decision out of Alabama, of the Supreme Court, that gutted Section 5. And then one of the senators in this state, a state senator, said, now that the headache has been removed, and they came up with House Bill 589 and gutted everything out of 666 and put it in House Bill 589. They had already passed in House Bill 589 voter ID, but they held it until the Shelby decision came down. Trump was nowhere around. Trump was nowhere around. So North Carolina, come on, y'all. This is not a battle against Trumpism. This is a battle against born and bred extremism right here in North Carolina. Right here in North Carolina. This is the same crowd that embraced the Southern strategy in the 1960s. Richard Nixon embraced it. Every person that ran for president after Richard Nixon embraced it. Lee Atwater embraced it. Trump did not invent it, he inherited it. And this is why ever since the Obama coalition broke through in the South, and where did it break through the greatest in the South? North Carolina. Because Florida is a quasi-Southern state because you got so many people retiring there. Virginia is quasi because you got Northern Virginia, but North Carolina is pure Southern. And when that coalition broke through in 2008, ever since then, there's been an all-out attack. And why did it break through? It didn't break through. Obama lost on Election Day. That's why in North Carolina, we ought not need Obama to come here to get us excited. I love Obama. We ought to get excited ourselves because we fought in 2007, and we had been fighting for 10 years to win same-day registration and early voting. We won same-day registration and early voting when no other southern state could do it. Do you know who we are, North Carolina? And Obama lost on Election Day in 2008, but he won because of all the votes that came in during early voting. But ever since then, they've tried to challenge vote. Now Tim Moore, the extremist Republican Speaker of the House, has signed off on a bill, a case for the Supreme Court where now he wants legislative sovereignty. He wants to, this ain't Trump doing this. He wants the state legislature to, when it makes a decision, particularly around issues of voting, to have sovereignty. And the state Supreme Court cannot overturn it, or the appellate courts. Here we are. And yet they have the audacity to be asking us for their vote. We've got to know this fight we're in. Not only are they trying to steal the vote, they just lie. This Barber talking. I didn't come tonight to talk about people, just screw the truth. They lie. And one of the lies that's out here right now is about this whole inflation thing. And Democrats, we better for these next 96 hours fight back against it. Every candidate ought to go on TV, go on radio, go in wherever you got to go and fight against it. See, listen to what was just written a day ago. It says, according to House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican Democrats, radical policies created the worst inflation in generations. Senator Rick Scott of Florida attributes raging inflation to the insane tax and spending spree of President Joe Biden and the Democrats. Ted Cruz calls it Bidenflation or something. He tries to make up a name, be a Bidenflation. Bud, who's trying to be a senator who's already been a terrible congressperson, is added to this. But the article says they know it's bogus. Jerome Powell, who was appointed chairman of the Federal Reserve by Trump, says they lying. He was appointed in 2017. He said that the current high inflation is a global phenomenon. It's got three things that's going on. One, the pandemic-related lockdowns, layoffs, school closings that kept tens of millions of people at home during 2020 and the first half of 2021. As vaccines became available and restrictions eased, many of them began to spend more money. Supply chain disruptions prevented manufacturers and retailers from keeping up with consumer demand, and the prices spiked up. Number two, sanctions placed on Russia for its unprovoked war against Ukraine severely reduced supplies of oil and gas on the world market. Number three, a large number of workers, many of them seniors, did not return to their jobs in 2021. The tight labor market drove up wages. The truth of the matter, that's what has caused inflation. It is not the policies of Biden to help people and the policies of Democrats to help people, and they ought not be getting away with that lie. It's a lie. 37 of 44 nations with advanced economies, according to the Pew Center, had inflation rates that were at least twice in the first quarter of 2020. United States, Canada, European Union, the United Kingdom, Turkey. It's a global phenomenon. And they can't blame it on the money passed to help people, the American Rescue Plan, which the Republicans voted against, but then when they come home, they take credit for it. Democrats, you can't let them to get away with that. They voted against it, then they come home and take credit for it. They voted against the $1.9 trillion. And they say that's what caused the inflation. But we've got to say, no, that was mercy, because 9.7 million Americans were unemployed, 4 million more in February of 2020, 4.2 Americans had long-term unemployment. They don't want to mention that. We better mention it. Because who attacks mercy? What's wrong with you when you attack mercy? What's wrong with you when you suggest that social Darwinism ought to be how we act in a pandemic? And how did we let them forget? Yeah, Biden got 1.92 trillion, but Trump, you did 2.2 trillion. So if putting money in the economy was what caused the inflation, you put more. And when you put it out there, you allowed wealthy folk to get a $1,200 check. Somebody ought to tell the truth. Democrats, we got to get some fire. I normally would not be partisan, but I cannot anymore. Because when you lie and steal and then seek to embrace and undergird that lying and stealing with violence, you're not fit for political office. It's one thing to have legitimate debate. It's another thing to have outright lies. And Democrats, we got to, don't be afraid to call a lie a lie. So we gather here today, we got sites, 100 counties. Guilford, you just heard the numbers. You just heard the numbers. But before we listen, because sometimes those numbers can kind of depress you, North Carolina, Guilford County, who are we? You heard me say, we are the state that in 2008, they pulled out all the money and said North Carolina was going red. Y'all remember that? Yeah. I do. Democrat, the national, pulled the money out, sent it to Florida and Ohio, and said that North Carolina was going red as it had ever since Jim Carter. But when the dust settled, North Carolina was the only southern state, pure southern state, that gave President Obama a margin in our 15 electoral college vote. This was the same year they told us we couldn't pass same-day registration early voting. That was then when we formed the moral movement, and we did. It's the same year that Alma Adams had been pushing raising the minimum wage for 10 years and had been voted down by Democrats. And we told her, try it one more time. And in that 10th year, in 2008, we won. We were the only southern state to raise the minimum wage. Do we know who we are? We don't listen to polls. If we listened to polls, Nelson and Joyce wouldn't be here tonight. If we listened to public opinion, they wouldn't be standing up tonight and now leading the state and part of the country through reconciliation. We've got to elect people who don't listen to polls, they listen to people. And they're concerned about the people. And there's a story, and I'm through, that I think fits this moment. I was going to do a lot of things, but as I was driving down the road, the Spirit said, preach to the Democratic Party tonight. So I think I will. In the 5th chapter of John, there's a story about a pool of Bethesda. And Jesus comes to the place of the pool of Bethesda. It's full of pain, it's full of misery. It's a place where the people are suffering. They could not get help back home. The people felt like their political leaders didn't care and their religious leaders didn't care. It is a place for those who know that nothing is being done to reduce the misery index. And the Bible says that Jesus went where the misery was. And this story says to me that if you're going to really shift public policy, you got to first see the misery. You can't hide it. You can't refuse to talk about the large number of poor and low wealth people in this state. You can't bypass it. You've got to see the 1 million without health care. You have to see the 2.2 million people who work every day for less than a living wage. You have to see the misery. You have to see the death. You have to make yourself see it. That's what puts fire in your belly. You got to see the people that have died because we haven't expanded Medicaid. You got to see the people that don't have jobs because of the billions of dollars that we should be in our counties that are not in our county. You've got to see the misery. And Democratic Party, you ought not be ashamed of being a party that will make this nation see. Not only must you see the misery, the Bible says that Jesus asked the man a question: do you want to be made whole? You got to question the misery. The question almost seems like a mean question to ask a man at a pool that's been crippled 38 years, do you want to be made whole? It sounds harsh, but there are times that we have to be willing to question the misery. We've got to ask folk, do you really want this to change? I'm asking that of Democrats. I'm asking the folk, do you really want this to change? Do you really want to fight? Or have some of us become so comfortable we've forgotten what the misery felt like? Are you running with the same fire you ran with 20 years ago and 30 years ago? It ain't a harsh word, it's a question. It's a question about challenging the misery. Do you want to be made whole? Do you want the poor to be lifted? Do you want health care to be given? Do you want people not to die? Do you want immigrants in this state? Do you want the LGBTQ community to be recognized? Do you want the sick to be healed? It's an interesting question. Interesting question. I also believe one of the reasons Jesus asked the question because what he was saying to the man, you're complaining, but you know, you could have formed an inch ministry. And every day you could have inched toward the pool, and by the next year, you could have fell over in the water. I believe Jesus is raising the question, you could have formed a pull together ministry. Instead of having meetings with white folk and meetings with black folk Democrats and meetings over here with the wealthy Democrat and meetings over here with the conservative Democrat, why don't we have a Democratic Party meeting, a real one, and pull together, pull everybody to the edge and start with the least of these. And if the least of these fall in the pool, the rest of us gonna be all right. Maybe Jesus was asking, do you want to be made whole? And you got to ask political folk that, because some folk don't want to be made whole. They just want to run, get to office, and just when they get to office, do what they've been doing. 50 clergy went to the Congress a few weeks ago, and we said to the people in charge, before this election happened, you ought to have 3 more votes so that America will know exactly where people stand. We said you ought to have a vote on a woman's right to choose. They said, well, we might lose it. That's not the point. Expose where people are. Don't let them hide. You ought to have a vote on living wages, and you ought to have a vote on health care. have done it. We said it to Schumer, said it to all of them. You should have a vote because the public needs to know before November gets here where people actually stand. But then, thirdly, Jesus knew something else. Not only must you see the misery and question the misery, you've got to challenge, and act as though the misery doesn't have to exist. So what a man was questioning, I don't have anybody. Obama won't come to North Carolina. We can't get any celebrities to come to North Carolina. How are we going to get the people out? Jesus said, look at here, man. Why don't you organize what you got? Why don't you get up and organize like you're not supposed to be here? Why don't you get up and organize your stuff? You got a mattress, get up and organize your mattress so you can carry it out of here. Why don't you start acting like you're not supposed to be here? Get up, organize your stuff, and decide to make a move. And guys, that's all I came to say. Huh? We don't have to stay here. We know who we are, whose we are. We know what North Carolina has done. They arrested 1,200 of us. We kept coming, and we beat them when it came to blocking the right to vote. We don't have to just accept it. We are not people that have to be acted upon. We can act. We can make a difference. We've got 96 hours. It didn't take the Lord but 7 days, and he rested on one of them to build the world. If you don't believe the misery ought to exist, then get up, organize your votes, and decide to make a move. For 12 years, Republicans have gerrymandered themselves and tried to oppress the votes to clean up the power. We beat them in court. Now we need to beat them at the ballot box. Get up, organize your votes, and decide to make a move. If you're tired of politicians like Ted Budd who have gone to Washington and making promises that he's going to follow a fateful agenda, but then when he got to Congress, he did everything Jesus wouldn't do. He blocked living wages. He blocked health care. He blocked the child tax credit from being expanded. If you don't like it, get up, organize your votes, and decide to make a move. If we tired of a Senate where 50 Republicans and 1 or 2 Democrats will obstruct actions on voting rights and climate justice and living wage, if you're tired of it, get up and organize your votes and decide to make a move. If we want a senator named Sherry Beasley who will stand up for North Carolina, if we want a black woman in the seat Jesse Helms used to hold, if we want a woman that'll fight to protect women and protect workers and protect families and protect the sick, then get up, organize your votes, and decide to move. If you're tired of having an extremist Republican leading the state legislature since 2012, and all they've done since they've been there is attack gay people and attack Latinos and attack Medicaid and attack voting rights, if you're sick and tired of it, get up, organize your votes, act like you don't have to be here, and decide to move. If you're tired of folk that would rather pack the Supreme Court with judges than keep people out of caskets during COVID, get up, organize your votes, and make a move. If you're tired of seeing 2.7 million people work hard every day without a living wage, then get up and organize your votes and make a move. If you're tired of Bud lying on Sherry, talking about he's a Christian and she's not, get up and organize your votes and make a decision. If you're tired of people saying they love the veterans, but then they won't even make sure the veterans have health care and living wages, get up, get up, get up, and organize your votes Make a decision and move and act like we don't have to be here. North Carolina, we ain't never waited on nobody outside of North Carolina to help us. We got up ourselves. And we ought to do it again. We ought to do it again. We ought to do it again. Nudge your neighbor, say, neighbor, you got 96 hours and all day tomorrow. You know we can do it. Call everybody. Tell everybody you know. If you want to really get them going, tell them I kissed Gladys Robinson. That'll get them on the phone. Then get them out to vote. But whatever you got to do, get up, organize your votes, and make a decision to move and act like things don't have to be like this. There are more of us that stay at home than there are in the margin of victory. But don't beat the folk up that stay at home. Let's repent. Sometimes we've let the TV talk to them, and we've not gone to talk to them. And people feel disembodied. They don't feel like we really care. And so we got 96 hours to make somebody care. Cooper didn't win but about 10,000 votes. Obama, 14,000. Oh, I'm telling you, polls can't vote, but we can. Get up. Organize your votes. Act like you want to be made whole. And decide to make a move. There's some brothers and sisters that are here. I'm going to let Ms. Robinson introduce them. But the reason we invited them to come because they've already voted. But you need to hear why they voted. They didn't vote because of nobody's picture. They didn't vote because personality. The folk you're going to hear vote because they have serious public policy needs that they deserve as American citizens. They're not asking for nothing but what the Constitution promises: justice. They're not asking for nothing but what the North Carolina Constitution promises in its preamble. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons are created equal, endowed by their Creator, and having certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, the enjoyment of the fruit of their own labor, and the pursuit of happiness. They're not asking anything but what every politician swears to uphold when they say they're going to serve the Constitution of North Carolina. Article 11, Section 4, beneficent provision to the poor and the orphan and the needy is among the first duties of a civilized and Christian state. It's time for us to stop acting uncivilized and give some folk a vacation. If they want to be mean, let them be mean at home. If they want to lie, let them lie at home. But don't give them the will, the levers of power where they can inflict pain on top of pain on people. Get up, organize your votes, and make a move. Every candidate that's here, you ought to leave here tonight and call every candidate in Guilford County and say it's time for us to stop just worrying about our own one election and come together. It's time for black folk and white folk and Latino folk and everybody to come together. Gladys Robinson will tell you, I told him I would not come here if this was a black meeting. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of us getting in all these separate corners. I'm sick of it. And it's time for us to get sick of it, because Kevin Phillips said in 1967, he told Richard Nixon, I know how to win in America for the next 60 years, but what you must do is embrace a policy of positive polarization. He said we must split the nation in half and divide people based on race and sex and where they stand in the peace movement and things of that nature. He said, and if we do the division, we can win in the divide. Because if they ever come together, we'll never be able to win. And they played that game, and they've been playing it for 50-some years, and they've been winning. But if they play the game, we can change the game. Dr. King said the only hope for America is for the masses of poor and low-wealth white people and Negro people and Latino people to come together along with their allies and form a brand new electorate that can fundamentally shift the economic architecture of this nation. My brothers and sisters, you know what it would take of poor and low-wealth voters in this state to overcome any margin of victory in the last 10 elections? 19%. 19% of the 1 million, that's all. Florida, 4%. Pennsylvania, 4%. We searching for the wrong swing voter. The swing voters we ought to be searching for are those down at the pool of Bethesda.
Yes, sir.
The poor, the broken, the left out, the hurting. That's the swing vote. That's the sleeping giant. I ask you tonight and tomorrow, and I hope others that see every county ought to do it. Before the end of the day, Saturday, there ought to be a unity call in every county in this state with Democrats. And say, y'all, it's time. Ain't nobody gonna help us but us. We don't need another celebrity. We just need to do the work. And when you win, make sure you pass what you promised, and you'll never lose again. Come on, y'all. Gladys, introduce.
So I've asked Reverend Sakina Hamlin to introduce each of our presenters this afternoon. It's going to be brief, but we want you to hear from people whose lives are impacted by unfairness, inequities, and what this nation has doled out to them because we as a mass of people have not gotten out to vote and make sure we elect people who support them and who will bring up the least of us. So Sakina will come on and make it brief, and they'll come right here.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll bring you some.
And I'm going to do something a little bit different with our list because I know all of my wonderful young friends are here. We have families here. And we remember that the reason why we are here and the reason why we have government is for the families. We're all trying to provide for our families. So first we'll have Mr. Eddie Giddens, and we will have possibly standing up with him, maybe gonna speak, Imaya, Little Eddie, and Emiya. Amen, come on.
Most of them have already voted. So one of the reasons we want to do is them to tell why they voted so they can inspire other people. Tell folks like you why you voted.
How you voted?
What part of your story? Yeah, come on. With the children. Okay, go ahead.
I would like to say thank you to the brother there for giving me courage to even be up here because he was a great speaker. A little bit about me. I'm a former surviving victim of police brutality 3 times in New York City. They paid me little but nothing. We was the victims of systematic injustice in Virginia, where there was a legal house raid. Little did they know that my parents worked for the Department of Education and I was a college graduate. But we profile people and we do things the wrong way. So my move to North Carolina was basically a safety move for my kids. And in my safety move, the safer we went, we had to become more homeless. And we were seeing being a homeless mother or a homeless father or a single father and a single mother with children is hard, especially when you walk into North Carolina. So we came to talk about the election. This is an election of courage. This is an election of strength. Why? Because when I walked around North Carolina, Guilford County, I seen some people sleeping on the floor, and they didn't want to go to a shelter. Then I seen others who wanted to go to a shelter, but they had to wait to make a phone call. Could you imagine, even when we needed to go somewhere, we had to wait 14 days to get in. 14 days is really long. So it's important that you vote for people like Gladys Robinson. I can tell you firsthand, before I was called to come here, I knew that she had tried to put in some bills for families in crisis intervention, and veterans. Even though, you know, the bills weren't passed the way we wanted them passed, she put them in. And so we have people here today, you know, that's in Congress, Kathy Manning, and we have a person that is so well articulated and intelligent. When I spoke to her, Lucy Inman. And we need these people. Why we need these people? Because there was a man like me with 3 kids who, I didn't have anything. I had money, but money didn't mean anything because I didn't have a place to live. My kids didn't have a school to go to, and even when they got a school to go to, and I got an apartment, I still had to stay in a shelter because I didn't have a car or a way to get my kids to school. So there's some important issues to deal with in North Carolina, especially Guilford County. And there's people out here who care, and people out here who want to help. But the problem is, there's somebody like me laying on the floor who don't know. They haven't been given a name. People are too afraid to stop. People are too afraid to say, hey, do you know who your council member are? Do you know who your assembly leader is? Do you know who the Senate is? Do you know where the office is at? Do you know who this person? See, we got to lend a helping hand. And so that goes back to what he said. Just imagine. I love the way he spoke about the prophet Jesus, may peace be upon him. And he used them in a way to uplift people. Because just imagine if any one of those prophets stopped. Just imagine if Moses said, hey, I can't deliver this. Just imagine if Jesus didn't have the gospel. May peace be upon him. So today is our gospel. We come together today to tell each other, me included, we have a future here, these children. I just imagine how hard it would be for a person with no money to overcome homelessness for a woman. I'm a man, right? And a man with kids is no different from a woman with kids because you're obviously in a situation. But just imagine a woman with kids. It's a little different. Because when she calls the shelter and she can't get in, she has to do something with her kids. And unfortunately, the way the world works down here is that a woman is compromised. And knowing that she might be compromised that night, her daughters may be compromised, her children may be compromised. We need to vote people in office that's going to save these kids. You know, we really got to look at the politics of today. And as I see it, I don't think it's so much white and black today as it was before. It's more rich or poor. It's more poverty. It's more business and finance and economics and who has the new car. So now they got the Tesla. So you can imagine what some people in politics are going to do for a Tesla, right? But the people here today, we don't need a Tesla. We just need to help the people. You know, that's why I'm here. I'm here because the agenda, today's agenda is tomorrow's agenda. One day, make 2 tomorrows. So if we make this one day, make 2 tomorrows, then 2 tomorrows make 2 years for a kid or a child. You know, my kids moving around, when your kids move around, whether you have money or not, you become homeless, right? And when they move around, she's lost her college scholarship because she had to leave her school. And, you know, I had to go get custody of my kids. A lot of things happened where we were innocent. I wasn't really for voting at all because I was depressed. I was like, look at the state of my country. I have my peers, the young people killing each other. Then I have police killing us. It hit me when I called the White House, and it's a Democratic administration, and they answered the phone. And not only did they answer the phone this year, and they spoke to me. They told me what to do, how to address the president, how to address the vice president, and so I did. So I wrote the emails thinking, hey, this is a long shot. They took care of me in 8 days. I called Governor Glenn Youngkin, right? I called Governor Glenn Youngkin for a matter that happened in Virginia while I was in North Carolina. He wouldn't help me. So I called places in North Carolina, and I said, you know what I'm gonna have to do to Republicans over there? I'm gonna have to call the White House. And I did, so the Democratic Party helped me be where I'm at today. So I'm standing here to say that not only am I telling you to endorse these people, I'm telling you you're gonna save a life doing so. Because it takes too much for a person to struggle. And I've helped people morning, noon, and night after I was helped by the YWCA. They helped us, and we want to help people. And I'm asking you guys to vote and come out in big numbers. Tell people about Gladys. Tell people about Lucy. Tell people about Kathy. Please do. We need Senate, Congress, judges, education, and reform. Thank you.
I'm going to do the order differently too. Ms. Lauren Reed and Jaden to come up. After them, we'll have Ms. Christina Lord Marshall, and then Mr. Bill Eckert.
Hello. My name is Lauren Reed, and I haven't voted yet, but I'm going to explain to you why I will. I'm going to explain to you why I am. I'm nervous. I've been struggling for a few months to get my tooth fixed, and it keeps getting infected to the point where my right side of my face swells up so bad that my lips are sideways. And the doctors keep telling me to go here and go there. And so I finally gave in and I went. But they told me, oh, I have to wait 6 months to be seen. I want to be here for my son. And I know it's not a big deal, but this infection could take my life. So yeah, we have to make a difference in this health plan, a huge difference, so that we can save lives while we're doing it. So vote for the people you see here today so we can make Medicaid expanded. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Lord Marshall, and I'm 64 years old. I was born here in Greensboro and attended and graduated from Jonesboro, Lincoln, Allen, Dudley, Bennett College for Women, and Graduate School of Social Work at Howard University. I would like to say I have voted, and I have taken several people to vote, and will continue to do so. I'm a retired social worker, having worked in Guilford County, Department of Social Services, the Health Department, Head Start, the school system, and employment security. I serve as a deacon at my church, and I currently serve on various boards in the community, and I am one of the uninsured patients. I'm a homeowner and I have owned that home since '89. I have 3 adult college-educated children who each work 2 jobs, one as a mental health professional, juvenile correction officer, human resource supervisor of the city of Atlanta. As I think about it, I was invited to speak on this panel several years ago by Gladys Robinson, and I thank Eugene Wilson for inviting me tonight. At that time, I spoke before the governor, Roy Cooper, about the same topic, and here I am again. I am one of the uninsured patients in Greensboro. I retired in 2002 due to having stress and family problems. I applied for the Affordable Care Act and received health care plans and dental. I paid the first couple of months of $96 and $35 for dental. At that time, I was attending the Evans Blunt Clinic, but upon every time I visited, I had to pay a different copayment. And then I was told that the insurance carrier dropped me. I have worked and paid taxes and lived a long quality of life here in Greensboro. I love Greensboro. It's quiet, caring, and respectful. I am also a public servant. Growing up in Greensboro, the Gifford County Health Department was my medical home. So when I reached out to them when I needed medical care, I was told to contact Triad Adult Pediatric Medicine on Arlington Street. And this is where I found out about the Orange Card, the Guilford Community Care Network. I was accepted, and I paid my co-payments on a sliding fee scale. And when I needed dental care, they referred me to Gifford County Dental Health. And it was there I learned about Med Select programs, free medications. Cone Health Cancer Center would provide scholarships for yearly mammograms and pap smears for uninsured patients. I applied through the Gifford County's Department of Social Services for Medicaid, but was denied yearly until 2020. At that time, I received Medicaid that would only cover for COVID-19 care. I started working part-time in ACE's program for Gifford County Schools from 2014 to 2020, and of course, I could not afford the health care insurance. I am uninsured, but thankful for the community health partners. I survived 10 years without having ongoing health care insurance, simply because of the cost. I will be Medicare eligible, and I've already received my card. I just need to do some research on the plans. I thank the community partners for doing their part. I thank you for consideration, and please extend Medicare to those who are in need in North Carolina. I thank you for listening. I thank you for caring. And yes, take someone out to vote. Bill.
Howdy, folks. My name is Bill Eckerd, and I'm a United States Army veteran. I was in Vietnam in 70 to 71. I was a combat engineer and a topo unit. We did map making. We didn't have Google Earth back then, so we had to go out and do the map making. During that time, of course, we tromped through jungles full of Agent Orange and other chemicals, and 40 years later, I was diagnosed with diabetes and vascular issues. I thought at that time, this was in 2009, that I had better check with VA and see what the benefits are in case, long term I needed them. Well, we wrote a letter to request my records, and the letter came back, and they could not find my records, even though I'd had my DD-214 and used it twice to buy a house and had used the GI Bill to go to school. So that kind of strange. For the next 5 years, I kept calling and checking on it, and finally, you know, I was always given the excuse that they're researching, you're going to look into it. So fortunately, I was financially okay, and I was eligible for Medicare, and I have a Blue Cross Blue Shield, so my medical was covered. So it wasn't really a big pressure on me at that time to do this. However, I kept thinking to myself, this is me. What about the hundreds of thousands of other veterans that can't get help? And what do we do about it? Well, we elect Trump. So these guys are out there, and they need help. So I wanted to tell my story just to make you aware that there's a lot of conditions in the VA. I mean, they do a lot of good things, but there's also a lot of things that fall through the cracks. And we need to, you know, legislatively, we need to fix that, and we need to pay attention. Now, I have not voted yet, but I'm going to vote for Gladys. I'm going to vote for Lucy. I'm going to vote for Kathy. And if I could vote for Ashton, I would, but I can't. I'm going to vote for Derek. And, of course, Alan. But I just want to let you know that being a veteran, it's an honorable thing, and I'm proud to be a veteran. But I think the government, and believe me, there are hundreds of thousands of veterans out there that are really in bad shape. And I think the government really needs to take a good look at the VA. Thank you.
So let's give all of our presenters a hand. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy to stand up in front of crowds of people and talk. So we want to thank them for coming out, and thank them for sharing their stories, for putting pride away so that you can hear the pain and the suffering in terms of not having home health care, having children as a father and nowhere for them to sleep, not sure where they can go to school, and having health problems, and then Medicaid expansion isn't expanded in North Carolina. So you can hear those stories. And that's what we want you to tell people tomorrow. When you go out to canvas, we're at the instruction part of this program. The purpose tonight was for Reverend Barber to give you a call to action, to get up and serve. And then we have packets. They are precincts where people who are registered by the thousands have only voted in a few hundred. That's where we're losing out. So we have those packets, those precincts. Each organization here, we're asking you to take one precinct and take the ballots, the Democratic ballots, so you can hand them to people, and then listen to them. You know, ask them if they voted. If not, encourage them to vote for these folks, but also tell them the stories you've heard and see what are their stories. They've got stories too. They've got issues too. So we ask you as organizations, would you stand up if you represent an organization? Stand up. If you represent an organization in here tonight, stand up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because you're the people we are counting on. And as you exit, and we're not finished yet, as you exit, we want you to take that precinct or take two. And then take the instructions, but take the ballots, and go to those doors in the morning and knock. Now, several things. Tomorrow is the last day to register and vote. Polls open from 8 until 3. And there's information out there. Don't forget it. And then election day is when? Tuesday, November 8th, from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30. And if all of us are crying at 7:30, that means we didn't do our job. That means we did not do our job. We did not try to serve these children here, the people here on the front. So we need you to do that. I'm going to make a couple of announcements and ask Reverend Brown to come up, and I really want to thank him for his perseverance. Sometimes we hit heads a little bit, Reverend Brown, because my head is strong as yours. We just go that way. But we both care, and we all care about the people in the community. We all care, and that's why we continue to fight and strive, and Reverend Barber cares so much. But there are several things going on. You know that there's a Panhellenic group meeting at 9 in the morning at the Democratic Party office, 2300 West Meadowview in the Wrightsville building to get people to call or either to canvass and go out and vote. And then I've got an announcement that tomorrow from 11 to 1 in Barber Park, I think the New North Carolinians and another group are trying to get young people out to register and vote. And then on the Sigma Kappa Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha is hosting a party at the Pole on November 8th at from 3 to 5. Now, y'all don't wait for 3 o'clock on November 8th. Don't go party if you haven't voted. Okay? Don't go party. Y'all go vote first. But those are the announcements that I have right now. I want to thank you again. I want to thank you again. Thank yourselves because you are the faithful. You know, I'm not a preacher, but you know in the Bible, it only took a few disciples, didn't it? And they reached hundreds of thousands of people. So you are the disciples. You are those, and you can take people with you, and you can go out. And Joyce and Nelson, the beloved, have been doing it all week. Kathy and Democratic Party have been doing it. You can do it. There is no reason we can't. When I was a college student in the 60s, we went around and we registered people. That was right after we got the right to vote. We registered people, and then we turned the vote for us. There's no reason we can't do it. You can do it. And I want to thank you for doing it. I'm going to call Reverend Brown up. And remember, stop at the tables on your way out. Don't leave without materials. Don't leave without instructions. And Pam and Kathy and those will have it. Pam, did I miss anything? Okay. The ballot? Okay, she has the precinct list there for you. Reverend Brown, if you'll come up. And I want to thank Reverend Hughes for joining us as well. Thank you, parents and families. Thank you so very much. We're deeply indebted to you.
Thank you all. I just wanted to say that Dr. Barber wanted me to say for him, I don't know anyone that's harder at the work of justice than Dr. William Barber. He was leaving here because he had to be in Wilson, and he wanted me to say to all of you how grateful